Entitled Parents Get Kicked Off the Plane Cause the Wi-Fi Isn't Working. Discovered I am not my daughter's biological father. Wife of 9 years, haha, been having an affair for 4 of them.
Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started.
Entitled Parents Get Kicked Off the Plane Cause the Wi-Fi Isn't Working. Hey everyone, I am hoping that this is the right place to put my story. If not, then thanks for listening anyway. I work for a major airline in the US as a flight attendant, and this happened about 2 years ago. We were working a flight from Orange County to Denver, which is normally a less than 2-hour flight, important for later. I was the one in the front of the aircraft greeting passengers as they come aboard. The very first people to come on the plane for this particular flight was a family, 2 early teens kids, their father and their mother in a footcast. They sit in the second row and the rest of the boarding goes totally normal. We even got the doors shut an extra 5 minutes early, and we were all thinking about going down to the hotel bar at the end of a wonderfully uneventful day. As we pull away from the gate, I start making some of the normal announcements, you know, the ones that everyone actually pays attention to, when I say that the Wi-Fi isn't working. Honestly, it does suck when that happens, but there is literally nothing I can do about it. The mom then rings her flight attendant call button, and when I look over at her, I can see the frantic look in her eyes that makes me realize my peaceful day is coming to an abrupt end. I ask her what's going on, and she begins telling me how she can't possibly be on a flight without Wi-Fi. How she has nothing to watch and how she just cannot handle being on this plane. I look at her dumbfounded. This is a woman in her at least early 40s, sitting next to her 2 children and husband, who is freaking out about not having Wi-Fi for a 2-hour flight. But of course I do not point any of this out. I instead put on my best customer service smile and apologize for the inconvenience. She then starts crying and saying that she has to get off the plane right now. I ask her if she is totally sure she wants to get off because we are still on the ground and it's possible to go back, but it's a pain in the butt to return to the gate. As her sobs continue, I realize that at this point, even if she wanted to stay, there is no way that I would feel comfortable with her at 40,000 feet, so I have another crew member call the pilots and explain what's going on. I let her know that we are going back and that she and her family can deplane. This is the point where her wonderful husband decides to get involved, and you would think he would be consoling his wife, but he thought a better idea was to start yelling at me. Screaming that she was going to be fine and we didn't need to go back. How I was the one being dramatic and wasting everyone's time. After a very awkward taxi back to the gate, I go back to the front so we can reopen the doors, and all the while the husband is alternating between cussing at me and yelling at his wife. Once we finally got the doors open, I head back to their row and ask them to deplane and offer to help them with their belongings. This is when the wife looks up at me and smiles, and this is the part that I will never forget. I'm just going to run up there and download a movie and I'll be right back. I just smiled at her and thought, you have to be kidding me. We finally get them off the plane and into the slightly confused hands of a ground supervisor. We quickly reclose the doors and I exchanged shocked glances with my crew. Who really thinks that they are going to get back onto a plane after you made them and 130 other passengers turn around because you couldn't spend 2 hours with your family without Wi-Fi? Discovered I am not my daughter's biological father. I just found out my 15-year-old daughter is not my biological child. My daughter was preparing for a family tree project for an online class and wanted an ancestry test. My father is half Native American, but he died several years ago and I don't know precisely what Native American blood is in the family. My daughter came to me because it was my father and we didn't mention it to her mother at the time. Well, it turned out my daughter doesn't have any Native American blood. The obvious conclusion didn't occur to me at first because the truth of the situation didn't seem possible. I assumed there was a mistake. My first thought was that my father hadn't been part Native American. So I took the test and everything became apparent. It was a very emotional situation for me and my daughter. What I will remember the most was after she started crying, she hugged so tightly and just kept saying over and over, "I love you, Daddy." At home I confronted my wife and she looked like she'd had a stroke. She started crying and apologizing. You can probably imagine it. My wife and I got married because she was pregnant. We had been together for more than a year when it happened. It turns out she was sleeping with multiple guys at the time. She says it didn't mean anything and she doesn't even remember some of their names. When she realized she was pregnant, she said she wasn't sure who her father was. Since I was unaware of her extracurricular activities, she let me believe I was the father because I was the most financially stable. In terms of that, she may have chose correctly. I have been very successful in my career and building passive income streams has been a hobby of mine for a long time. My daughter got my wife to admit to this on tape as my daughter records the whole thing. I asked my wife several times, and she keeps insisting that she has been faithful for the entire time we have been married. I've never suspected anything, but I also didn't realize she was sleeping around before we got married, so I've said I don't believe her. I've come across a lot of the red flags of cheaters, and I can't think of any of them during our marriage. She doesn't use social media, and she has never been guarded about her phone. She only drinks on special occasions and doesn't go out for girls' night or anything. Also, she is a stay-at-home wife/mom, so here aren't any coworkers to worry about. She exercises at home, as we have a very nice home gym. I don't believe her when she says she hasn't cheated after getting married, but I can't think of anything suspicious. We have a prenup, so I'm not worried about divorce if it comes to that. My daughter is another story. She is absolutely livid about the whole situation. I know teenagers can be emotional. I certainly remember how I was at her age. But she has never been very expressive, something I thought she or from me, nature versus nurture? My daughter can't stand to be around her mother. She has said some truly awful things to her mother. Basically variations of calling her a dirty slut who ruined our family. Whenever my wife tries to talk to her, my daughter yells and swears and cries like I have never seen. Christmas is coming up and my daughter is demanding my wife leave the house until after New Year's so she can spend time with her real family, meaning me. My daughter has even come on me privately saying that in the event of divorce she wants to stay with me. She has even asked if it is possible to disown her mother and be adopted by me. I haven't told this to my wife. My wife is preparing to leave for her parents' house for the holidays. My wife and I had talked about the situation but have decided to wait until after New Year's to make any decisions. I admit I'm grateful she agreed to leave because honestly I need some time to process this. I think I'm writing this as a way to just come to terms with everything that has happened. Wife of 9 years, haha, been having an affair for 4 of them. Let me pretend at this by saying English isn't my first language, so sorry for misspellings, and I don't know much about the abbreviations. I 34 male and my wife 33 female have been married for 7 years, dating for 3, no kids, but we do own a flat together. I am writing this a week after finding out and I'm currently staying at my brother's house. My wife and I were a super couple. We met at a conference meeting for our jobs and we hit it off almost immediately. She liked the same things I did, although our hobbies did differ, but we indulged into each other's interests. After 3 years of dating, she decided to move in with me into a small home I rented out for my friend. We would split the rent. She was great and I think our intimate life was also good. Around 4 or 5 times a week, we would both do the chores around the house and I would cook most of the meals because she didn't know how to, which I didn't mind. We would go out regularly on dates and I would often bring her surprise presents, which I thought she loved. I will say that I was distant at one point in the relationship as I suffered the loss of a family member and just shut myself in my office. I will also say we might have got married too quickly, but I really love this woman with all my soul and now it's all destroyed. Her family loved me and her father and I are especially close as we go on fishing trips often. So I never thought anything was wrong with how she acted until a lot recently as she became more cold to me and started accusing me of cheating. She would start arguments over petty things which I would end up apologizing for. Not that she accepted the apologies. She also started going out for girls' nights where, or so I thought, her and friends would just go out for a day. Our bedroom life basically became a stone, and whoever I tried to initiate she would push me away and say that she was tired or not in the mood, which I respected. But these of course created red flags in my mind, and so regrettably I snooped around. There was nothing on her Facebook out of the unusual, but her phone, that was a gold mine. One day she was laughing at her phone and I asked what was funny and she became extremely defensive and said that she doesn't need to tell me, then went back to texting. This set off alarms in my head like I've never had before, so that night after she had a couple drinks and went to bed I unlocked her phone using Face ID and looked through her photos, nothing there. Recently deleted nothing as well. Then I went to her messages and found some girl named Monica. She loved Friends, and I hadn't met a friend named Monica, so I took a snoop and I found the jackpot. From the last messages I just felt rage talking about thing like I want you and sold I have a husband. The kicker was she didn't delete anything. Every nude, every message for the last 4 years were there, and there were thousands. I'm a bit tech savvy, so I installed spyware into her phone and I sent every text to myself. Took 5 hours to do it all. And now I'm seething with anger. I have this woman everything, and now she does this for so long as well and can still look me in the face and smile. I have asked a friend to recommend me a lawyer who will go full scorched earth on her, and all the emotions I had towards her are now just anger and spite. She doesn't know I know yet, and so I told her that I have a work-related trip for 2 weeks. I have already set up cameras in the house, and as soon as I left the house he came over, and they have done it everywhere. The kicker, Monica is my other brother, so now I feel betrayed, emasculated and broken inside. No one else knows yet other than the brother I'm staying at, and we are both seething at this. But I've had my good friend Jack Daniels by my side this whole time. I just feel so dumb and stupid for not noticing in the beginning, and now I'm going to have to go back and face her like nothing happened, as I want to blindside her with the divorce papers when I get them after I hear my options from the lawyer who I haven't even chosen yet. But I will say that something is broken and gone, and I don't feel for my wife anymore, but that's where I am right now. I'll post an update if people want one, but right now I'm lost, drunk, sad, angry, and I have no thoughts of reconciliation. But what do I do now? I'm just lost. Sorry for the long read.